If someone steals your bike and no one's around to stop it, is it really a crime? Look, nobody wants to deal with the possibility that their bike might get stolen. Believe me, it sucks. However, every day, someone's gonna walk out to their parking spot and find their bike gone. If you're lucky enough to live in a house with a locking garage all to yourself, most of this won't apply to you. But for those of you living in downtown apartment complexes or storing your bike outside, a few of these things might just send a thief packing. Let's start off spooky season with something really scary. Motorcycle theft in Austin is so common and the thieves are so good at it that if your bike is stolen, no one's gonna even bother looking for it. Ask anybody who's dealt with theft here in Austin and they will back me up. Somebody's tried to steal this KTM here from me 3 separate times and successfully stolen this Harley from my fiance. It was only dumb luck that we were able to recover this motorcycle, and when we called 911 because the thief was still in the area, it took them 45 minutes to respond. Unfortunately, this is going to place the burden of stopping thieves entirely on your shoulders. Don't expect any help from security officers, security cameras, or even locked gates, because at the end of the day, they're not going to help you out. Let's start out with the obvious things that you can do to protect your motorcycle. First and foremost, park in the light so that anybody walking by will notice somebody suspicious goofing around with your bike. Secondly, do up the fork lock. This is going to keep somebody from being able to straighten out your bike, put it in neutral, and walk away with it. Lastly, if you have exposed ignition wires, go ahead and cover these up. They're already an Achilles heel on your bike, and it's not going to do anybody any good if they're just sitting out ready to be messed with. Now, if this were a perfect world, that would be job done. Everybody would have learned their lesson in kindergarten and learned not to touch stuff that doesn't belong to them. Unfortunately, that is not the world that we live in. Fork locks are easy enough to break, ignition cylinders can be bypassed, and your bike can still be stolen. If you were in my shoes out shopping for your next motorcycle, which one are you gonna steal? Are you gonna steal the unknown motorcycle under a cover with who knows what kind of security on it? Or maybe the bike with a grind-proof chain? Or perhaps the easy bike that's got nothing on it? To a thief, this right here is downright annoying. It's one extra step they have to take before getting at your motorcycle. They have to pick this thing up and look and make sure the bike under here is actually worth stealing. And then they have to take the cover off. It might not sound like much, but remember, your average thief is very lazy. They're looking for a cheap and easy payday and not something that's gonna land them in the slammer. So covering your motorcycle might just deter a thief outright. The only problem here is that taking a cover off, it's just like unwrapping a Christmas present. If all you have under the cover is a fork lock and your fingers crossed, your bike is as good as gone. You're going to need something to immobilize your motorcycle, but there's a whole bunch of options out there. Do you go for the simple U-lock or the alarm disc lock, or maybe even a big ass chain? The correct answer is all 3. Let's start with the rotor lock. This is something that's small enough to fit in your pocket, or in some cases can be mounted directly to the back of your brake caliper. Regardless of which one you choose, the concept is the same. A big chunk of metal keeps your front wheel from spinning. I've actually had this road lock on my KTM since the day I bought it. It's really easy to use. All you have to do is just turn the key, put the pin in place, and then once it's engaged, you can't take this thing apart without some serious tools. Now, to make sure that your bike doesn't actually go anywhere, all you have to do is just move it around till you hear a ping, and that's that pin engaging and locking inside your rotor. And now you can't move the motorcycle without some serious effort. The only problem is a thief in a hurry won't see the road lock and might go about breaking your frame lock anyway, not knowing that they'll never be able to get your bike to roll, which is exactly what happened to me. That's why I'm actually switching to a brake lock that has a built-in alarm, because this thing right here works exactly the same way. Locks in place in the rotor, and then once it's ready to go, it's gonna chirp, And then if somebody tries to steal your bike, it's gonna make enough noise to wake the dead. Yeah, that right there is not the sound of silence you're looking for when you're trying to surreptitiously steal somebody's motorcycle out of their garage. But let's assume that your thief is traveling with a pit crew and can easily take off your front wheel. Yeah, I know it's not exactly common, but bear with me. What happens if that wheel is also chained to the frame? Now, in a perfect world, you take this chain and run it to something really secure, something that's not gonna move, like the ground. You can get those anchors that'll lock your bike in place and nobody's gonna be able to move it. However, if you live in an apartment complex downtown, your landlord might not be super excited about the idea of you drilling into their parking lot. So instead, you're just gonna wanna go to someplace really secure on your frame, and that tends to be good enough. I suggest using the front wheel instead of the rear for the same reason I suggest using a noise-making alarm. A thief in a hurry is more likely to notice the chain and leave your bike before damaging it. Just remember not to secure your chain to something that can be easily unbolted. I made this mistake and it cost me $100 when thief number 3 tried to steal the KTM and unbolted my motor mount. Now, none of that's gonna make any difference if somebody picks up your motorcycle and just throws it in the back of a pickup truck. This thing right here weighs less than 350 pounds, and two relatively burly dudes could schlep this thing into the back of a car and just drive off. That's why the last thing I recommend is installing a tracker in all of your bikes. Both the KLR and the smc-r are fitted with trackers. I'm not gonna show you where, but if they leave the geofence, I will get a notification to my phone, and then I'll be able to share your exact position with the cops. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you round up the posse and go hunting for them outlaws, partner, but as a last-ditch failsafe, a tracker might help the cops find your bike and hopefully catch the thief. Now guys, I want to end this video with one final warning. Nothing that you do is going to make your motorcycle 100% theft-proof. You could spend thousands of dollars on the best anti-theft measures and still walk out and find your motorcycle damaged in a theft attempt or just outright missing. This is going to help deter thieves, but that's all it's going to do. I wish I had better news for you, but that's just the way that it is.